This is the story of one of the most valuable companies that has ever existed, worth trillions of dollars, more than any other company on Earth. It doesn't make phones. It doesn't sell you anything in a shop. Most people have never knowingly bought a single thing from it. And 20 years ago, it was mostly known for making toys for video game nerds. This is the story of Nvidia, and how a company that made graphics cards for gamers quietly became the most important company in the world. So let's start with, what does Nvidia actually make? One thing, mostly: a special kind of computer chip. To understand why that chip is worth trillions, you first need the two kinds of brains inside a computer. Imagine a school. The first brain is the CPU. Think of it as one super smart professor. He can solve almost any problem, but one at a time in order. Very clever, but only one thing at once. The second brain is the GPU, Nvidia's chip. Instead of one genius, imagine 1,000 small children. Each child can only do simple sums, but there are 1,000 of them, all working at the exact same time. For hard, one-step problems, you want the professor. But for a giant pile of simple sums at once, the 1,000 children win easily. That's the whole secret. Nvidia's chip does millions of tiny sums at the same time. And the modern world, it turns out, runs on tiny sums. Let's rewind to 1993 and where it all started: computer games. 3 engineers meet at a Denny's diner in California. One of them is a young man named Jensen Huang. He'd come to America as a child, been sent to the wrong boarding school by accident, cleaned toilets, waited tables. Now he's sketching a company on a napkin over cheap coffee. Their goal was simple: make video games look amazing. Because drawing a game world is exactly that kind of problem. Millions of little dots of color, all needing to be worked out at once. One professor doing each dot in turn is far too slow. But 1,000 children each coloring one dot at the same time? The game looks beautiful and smooth. The near-death experience. But here's what most people don't know. Nvidia almost died. Not once, but again and again. Their first big chip was a flop. The company nearly ran out of money in its very first years and had to lay off most of its staff to survive. Jensen came up with a company motto that he still repeats to this day: "Our company is 30 days from going out of business." Not as a joke, as a warning. He ran Nvidia like it could vanish at any moment, always paranoid, always pushing. And slowly, that paranoia paid off. Through the 2000s, Nvidia clawed its way to the top of the gaming world. If you wanted the best-looking games, you wanted an Nvidia card. For years, that was the whole business, and it was a good one. But ultimately, it was just video games. Then came the first surprise nobody planned for: crypto. Around 2017, a strange new crowd started buying up Nvidia's gaming cards by the truckload. Not gamers, crypto miners. Making cryptocurrency, it turned out, meant doing enormous piles of simple, repetitive maths. The exact thing the Nvidia chips were built for. Suddenly, gamers couldn't even find the cards because miners had bought them all. It was chaos. But it was also the first big clue. For the very first time, the world saw that this chip was useful for something far bigger than video games. That clue was about to become an explosion. Enter AI. Because at the same time, quietly, scientists noticed the same thing, but for something much more important than crypto. They found that this 1,000 children doing sums at once chip was shockingly good at the one technology that would define the century: artificial intelligence. Here's AI explained simply. To teach a computer what a cat is, you don't give it rules. You show examples. Millions and millions of pictures of cats. and each time it does a mountain of tiny sums to adjust itself and guess a little better. Millions of examples, billions of tiny sums, over and over and over. Remember who's brilliant at billions of tiny sums at once? The GPU, Nvidia's chip. The toy for gamers turned out to be the single best tool on Earth for building artificial intelligence. And Nvidia had a 10-year head start. For a while, only a handful of researchers understood this. Then, in late 2022, AI exploded into a whole new world. A company called OpenAI released ChatGPT, a software that could answer questions, read, plan, organize, basically a personal assistant, and people lost their minds. Chatbots that could write essays. Machines that could paint pictures. Overnight, every big company on the planet decided it needed AI, and needed it now. But to build AI, you need those chips. Not one or two. Tens of thousands. Hundreds of thousands. And when the entire world went looking for the best AI chips at the exact same moment, they nearly all arrived at the same door. Nvidia's. There's an old saying about gold rushes. When everyone runs off to dig for gold, the person who gets rich isn't usually the digger. It's the person selling the shovels. Because every single digger, whether they strike gold or go home with nothing, has to buy a shovel first. Artificial intelligence is the gold rush, and Nvidia sells the shovels. Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, and 1,000 AI startups. All of them fierce rivals, all fighting to strike gold. But they all line up to buy their shovels from the very same shop. And that shop can charge almost whatever it like. So how much is an Nvidia shovel? A single one of Nvidia's top AI chips can cost more than a brand new car, tens of thousands of dollars each. And the big companies don't buy one. They buy them by the tens of thousands and stack them into giant warehouses called data centers, buildings the size of football fields humming with Nvidia chips. Some of these companies are spending tens of billions of dollars a year, mostly on shovels. From one shop. Money flows in so fast that Nvidia went from a big company to one of the most valuable on Earth in barely a year. But here's the clever part, the part that's easy to miss. If Nvidia's chips are this profitable, why doesn't someone just build a cheaper copy and take the crown? Because years ago, Nvidia did something quietly genius. They didn't just sell the chip. They built the language you use to talk to it. It's called CUDA, Compute Unified Device Architecture. CUDA enables the acceleration of computational tasks by leveraging the parallel processing power of GPUs. In simple terms, CUDA turns your GPU into a super-fast calculator for complex jobs like video editing, AI, scientific simulations, and gaming. Think of it like this. Nvidia didn't just sell everyone a piano. They also wrote all the sheet music and taught the whole world to play. So now an entire generation of engineers only knows how to make music on Nvidia's chips. It's what they learned in university. It's what everything is built on. A rival could build a perfectly good chip tomorrow, but nobody knows the music for it. And nobody wants to relearn the piano from scratch. That's called a moat. And it might be the deepest moat in all of business. Everybody has noticed, of course. Everyone wants a piece. Other chip makers are racing to catch up. Even Nvidia's own biggest customers, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, are quietly trying to build their own chips so they can stop paying the shovel tax. But it is desperately hard. You have to beat the chip and beat 10 years of that sheet music and convince the whole world to switch. So far, almost nobody has. For now, the king still sells the shovels. Put it all together, and the results are almost hard to believe. A company that sold toys for gamers became the most valuable company in the entire world, worth trillions of dollars. Its chips became so precious that entire countries argue over who's allowed to buy them. Governments now treat them like a national resource, like oil. And Jensen Huang, the man who cleaned toilets and was 30 days from going out of business, became one of the most powerful people in the global economy, still in his black leather jacket. Not bad for 1,000 imaginary children doing sums. But now, let's talk about the risky part and what should make you pause. Almost the entire future everyone keeps promising you, the AI future, is being built on top of one company's chips. The apps, the chatbots, the trillion-dollar dreams, nearly all of it runs through Nvidia. And that's a strange, fragile kind of power for the world to hand to a single company. If Nvidia stumbles, or a rival finally learns the music, or the AI gold rush digs up nothing but piles of chips that turn out to be worthless junk in the future, then an enormous number of people are exposed. Because a huge slice of the world's hopes and a huge slice of the stock market's value is now balanced on one company selling one computer chip. And that's the quiet lesson hiding inside the whole Nvidia story. Everyone was so busy racing to dig for the gold, the flashy AI, the chatbots, the apps, that they forgot to ask the boring question: who sells the shovels? Because in every gold rush in history, that's where the real, steady, unglamorous money was always hiding. Nvidia didn't win by digging. It won by making sure that no matter who dug, and no matter whether they found a single nugget of gold, everyone had to pay it first. It doesn't sell you AI. It sells the one thing AI cannot exist without. So, Nvidia, explained like you're 5? A little company made a chip full of 1,000 tiny helpers to make video games pretty. Then the whole world discovered it needed 1,000 tiny helpers to build the future. And the little company that made the helpers ended up a global powerhouse who the whole world depends on, and they hold the keys to everything. The diggers get the headlines, but the one selling the shovels gets paid every single time.